The courtroom held its breath. Phones had long been silenced, but the tension made it louder than a riot. Jasmine Crockett stood like stone, her wrists gently resting on the defense table, not defiant, resolved. Across from her, Judge Elena Kagan leaned forward, voice sharp enough to pierce the marble. This court finds the defendant in contempt of her own conduct. A murmur flickered through the audience, but was quickly swallowed by silence. Jasmine's lawyer shifted, but she didn't. She looked at the judge. Not up, not down, just looked. Her voice, when it came, was low, clear. Truth doesn't vanish just because you bury it in marble halls. Kagan blinked. Once. No response. The cameras didn't blink at all. Somewhere behind the press box, a woman wiped a tear she couldn't explain. The silence didn't break. It shifted. Something unseen had just begun to unravel, and Kagan felt it first. Kagan's gavel hadn't fallen. It hovered, suspended by the weight of something she hadn't expected. Stillness. Jasmine Crockett didn't speak again, but she didn't have to. A different kind of testimony was being entered, the kind that couldn't be stricken from the record. Outside the courtroom, the nation was watching, but inside, a smaller war had begun. One between pride and principle. 6 months earlier, Jasmine had introduced a bill that sent tremors through the federal circuit, a bill exposing judicial conflicts of interest, one that bore Judge Kagan's name in its third clause. It wasn't personal then, just procedural. But Kagan had taken it personally. Retaliation came slowly. First, a summons over alleged campaign misappropriations, disproven. Then, a second charge, obstruction of justice. Still no proof. Now this. Contempt of court. A last attempt to silence her under the mask of law. Narration unfolded like a slow bleed. Court documents leaked. Redacted lines and signatures missing. A former clerk anonymously confirmed they'd been told to lose files linked to Crockett's name. A janitor claimed he saw shredded documents in the judge's personal bin. Still, no one spoke aloud, not yet. The courtroom had become a vacuum where truth echoed quietly but insistently. One by one, past victims began to surface. Young black intern, removed from chambers for attitude. A whistleblower from ICE whose testimony mysteriously disappeared. Their stories were not shouted. They were whispered. In back rooms, in reporter voicemails, in church bulletins passed hand to hand. Jasmine's lawyer, Marcus Bell, didn't argue. Aggressively. He merely asked questions, simple ones. Why were her campaign files sealed without explanation? Who signed the original contempt order draft? The prosecution grew tense, not because of what was being asked, but because of who might be listening. Then came the moment that broke the silence. A former court stenographer stepped forward, trembling, holding a flash drive. She'd kept it for months. One file, time-stamped and raw. On it, Judge Kagan in closed chambers, dismissing Jasmine's bill as noise from a race-baiting freshman. The words landed like broken glass. It wasn't just contempt of court. It was contempt of identity, of presence, of the right to even speak. Kagan's face didn't twitch in the courtroom as the clip played, but her eyes narrowed, not in defiance but in fear. Outside, the footage hit the press in real time. Social feeds flooded. News anchors stumbled over their own disbelief. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse, not chanting, just standing. Silent, still. Inside, Jasmine stood. No theatrics. This was never about me, she said quietly. It's about how far someone will go to silence the truth when it speaks in the wrong voice. No one clapped. No one needed to. The judge recessed for deliberation. But something had already been decided. The hearing resumed under cold lights and colder silence. Judge Kagan returned with lips pressed thin, face stripped of her usual armor. Her robe seemed heavier now, as if stitched with consequence. She glanced at her notes, but her eyes kept flicking toward Jasmine. Not with authority, but calculation. This court, Kagan began, but then paused. First. Her voice stumbled for just a breath. This court finds insufficient evidence to proceed on the charge of contempt. No apology, no exoneration, just retreat. Jasmine didn't move. Her lawyer nodded, once, but even he didn't smile. They all knew what had happened and what hadn't. A reporter asked her outside, "Do you feel vindicated?" Jasmine looked past him. Vindication would mean the system worked. This was just resistance, breaking, and the cracks deepened. Within hours, a second whistleblower stepped forward, a federal aide who revealed emails from Judge Kagan's clerk urging her to shut this down. 3 senators demanded an ethics inquiry. By midnight, Judge Kagan's biography on the circuit website was missing. Maintenance error, they claimed. No one believed it, but Jasmine wasn't celebrating. She was sitting in her car hours later, engine off, watching her city breathe. People walked by her window. No one recognized her. And that, somehow, felt right. At home, she scrolled through messages. One from her father. "Your mother would be proud." One from an old professor. "They always tremble before the fall." One from a woman she didn't know. "I stayed silent when it happened to me. You made me regret that." Jasmine didn't reply. She just let the weight settle. Meanwhile, Kagan sat alone in her office. The robe was off. The walls were bare. She stared at a framed article on her desk, a 2010 profile titled, "Justice with an Iron Spine." The glass had cracked. She didn't know when. Maybe it had always been. A knock came. She didn't answer. It was an aide, her final one. Leaving. Her badge on the table, she checked her inbox. 50 unread emails, none from friends. One from her daughter. "Can we talk?" Just that. No warmth, no punctuation. The silence she had once commanded now surrounded her. Jasmine returned to Congress a week later. She didn't hold a press conference. No grand speeches. She walked past the cameras, nodded once, and resumed her seat. When asked to comment, she replied, "I still have work." The ethics panel began a formal review of Kagan's court decisions. Quietly, her rulings were re-examined. One by one, reversals began, but it wasn't just about her anymore. Something in the air had shifted. Court aides began speaking out about other judges. Reporters started listening. An intern program was reinstated. One Jasmine once applied to and was rejected from. No one said why. Now it had her name on the welcome banner. She visited it once quietly. Watched a group of black and brown students take photos under her name. She didn't interrupt. Just watched. At night, Jasmine reread her own statement. Not the public one, the one she never sent. The one that said, "They tried to jail my voice, but they forgot that silence isn't surrender." She closed the file and deleted it. The fight wasn't over, but for once the system had blinked. Judge Kagan never returned to the bench. She gave no farewell interview. The judicial community issued no statement. She faded, not violently, but entirely. One day, a former bailiff spotted her in a park, sitting on a bench feeding birds. No books, no robe. Just an older woman in an overcoat watching people pass without looking back. There was no redemption arc, no redemption sought. But the system, the marble halls, the polished silence, had been marked, not broken, but cracked. And that, Jasmine believed, was how the light got in. When a freshman congresswoman returned home to her district, she found her office windows had been cleaned, not by staff, but by volunteers. Someone had left a note in the mailbox. 3 words, no name, we heard you, that was enough.